Go ahead and get started here. Welcome to a meeting of the editorial board of the St. Augustine Record with candidates for the office of St. Augustine Beach City Commission Seat 2. We're joined by Commissioner Rich O'Brien and Challenger Rose Bailey. Representing the Record is publisher Tony Bernatos, executive editor Craig Richardson, reporter Jared Keever, and opinion page editor Jim Sutton. This discussion is taking place on the afternoon of October 21st, 2016. So, Rose, Mr. O'Brien, thank you so much for joining us today. We'd like to open with giving you each the opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us why you are running for this seat. We'll start with you today.
All right. My name is Rosetta Bailey, and I'm running for seat 2 in St. Augustine Beach. I'd like to introduce myself first of all. I've had a career with PNC Bank since 1973, and I'm going back a ways to let you know my background. That's exciting and a long time ago and quite a few challenges, and my objective was to be Regional Loan Center Manager. I took control of the department when my supervisor had a serious illness, and the responsibility of the department was left up to me. This was my opening to prove myself. I was the first female that was promoted to loan manager among 20 men, so I've been around guys all my life. And I had 7 uncles. At the peak of my career, my title was Assistant Vice President, and then I went to Vice President, which was Regional Loan Manager. I encompassed 3 states, South Jersey, Kentucky, and Ohio, in addition to the Pittsburgh market. My responsibilities included financial objectives, service objectives, productivity objectives, and risk management / portfolio objectives. I had 62 branches report to me, and I had a staff of 14. I was successful in the implementation, of markets outside Pittsburgh with due diligence visiting all these markets. I developed a regular forum, market communication, which included branch visits, direct branch visits, and regular focus group participation. As I was chairman of the compliance committee, with the training schedule and the implementation of training, I believe in training and passing knowledge along. I love to teach things, especially the First Amendment. I oversaw lender credit reviews and performances, and a plan for improvements. And each and every time, this was immediately accepted by the market. My communication skills was rated acceptable or exceeds. After 26 years with PNC, I decided to retire and move to Florida in 1999. I never quit working. I'm always working. 2002, I earned my mortgage broker license. And in 2003, I earned my mortgage process license. This was an account. I also worked as an account executive, as an independent contractor, and did daily research and foreclosure files with several courthouses from Miami all the way up to Martin County. While living in Charlotte, North Carolina, I was employed for King's College as a financial and advisor, working with parents and Sallie Mae for approval of student loans. I worked for several banks from 2002 to 4 in the mortgage department, assisting in the flow of mortgages. In 2014, I decided I wanted to be involved in political work, and I ran for city council in Boca Raton, Florida. And I was running against 8 men, so the story continues. Now I'm running for commissioner in seat 2, St. Augustine Beach, with only a couple of weeks to go. I'm very excited to be on the November ticket and my reasons for running. I will take very seriously the oath when elected to uphold our Constitution. I am a constitutional conservative, the bedrock of our nation. To remember our elected officials work for the people, not the other way around. I will listen to the needs of the community. I will control responsible growth. Find more ways to give our children recreation area and a safe place, an enjoyable place, and a family-friendly place. Communication with our city residents is lacking, in my opinion. Transparency and accountability, there is none. Building height restrictions, that should be monitored closer. More respect for our residents, their property, and their trees. More consistency on the rules and regulations. Have a voice in concern of our library hours being shortened. Although I know our library hours are being changed back to longer hours, but we should have fought for longer hours for our little library in St. Augustine Beach. Replace control back to the P&Z, the Planning and Zoning Board, and their authority, and I believe they are the most knowledgeable for their decisions. And definitely retract the sign ordinance which they've approved recently. That is political free speech, and they have taken that away from me. They also did a $9 million loan that was approved, and what it has done is put the burden on the future of our children this time. The burden of debt is as destructive to freedom as subjugation by conquest. If the bond agreement falls short with a downturn in the economy, which we have a 25 to 30-year term, the city cannot borrow us out of debt. And who will pay for it and how? Raise taxes? That's what we always do. Out of that $9 million, I believe $100,000 is being put aside for a tourist bathroom. We have nothing for our residents, in my opinion. The Commissioner's response to protect our rights, not take away from them. They should be respecting them. And I say, here's what I put in here as far as Tom Reynolds. Because Tom Reynolds spoke up and Tom Reynolds was supporting me, he cannot go to the Commissioner meeting and show film, which he should have been able to see under the freedom of speech. Tom Reynolds cannot hold a sign up for me, which he wanted to do to an early voting, which starts at 24. So it's holding me back. I believe a strong local self-government is the keystone to preserving human freedom. I do not want to look like Daytona. I'll tell you what, I've seen Daytona recently. More hotels. I want to keep Augustine Beach a beach time so we all can enjoy the benefits of the beautiful paradise in Florida. Last but not least, without the right to free speech, none of the other rights are safe. Government officials, including local government, can get away with all sorts of abuses. If others are not free to talk about those abuses, which Tom does, then we're taking away our freedom of speech. Political signs and content is freedom of speech. And let us not forget that the United States Supreme Court made a decision on Dred Scott. They said Dred Scott was property, not a person. So, like I say, I'm very, very intent on our constitutional values. And with that, I stop.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn.
Okay. Mine will be a little bit more conversational, but I've been in St. Augustine Beach since 2001 when I bought Lafayette Ocean Inn at St. Augustine Beach. I began my public service in 2003 after I married my wife Lauren, who's from Chicago. And I have a real estate background, so I wanted to give back. I had never been in the military, so I volunteered to be on planning and zoning, and I was voted in. I served on that for probably 3 or 4 years, and after that time, or during that time, one of our commissioners became ill. She could no longer serve, and I was asked to put my hat in the ring for a commission seat, which I did. I was literally, my name was pulled out of the hat because it was a tie several times. And anyway, I've been on the commission since late 2006. Again, I'm married, in hospitality business and tourism. We also have the mini golf and a bed and breakfast, and I'm a commercial real estate agent. My purpose for running is to serve our community. Like I say, I was never in the military. It's my honor and privilege to do so. I do so with enthusiasm, and I take it very sincerely, and I think that shows in our meetings. During my time of public service as a commissioner on public and planning and zoning, I also served on the Tourist Development Council for probably 7 years. I also served on the Visitors and Convention Bureau, given my background in hospitality. As a business person, I know how to balance a budget and run a city, help to run a city like a business. It's not completely the same, but it's very important to operate it similar to a business by budgeting and good management. So I know how to do that. Let's talk about some specific issues. Green space. I supported the purchase of Hammock Dunes Park, Ocean Hammock Park, and I'm also considering, along with the commission, the mosquito control property. I think it's important to have green space. I've supported that. When it comes to the development of Ocean Hammock Park, we received quite a bit of money back, I think $4.5 million for our oceanfront park some years ago. We had a commitment to do certain things for that grant. We have 20 years to do that. This is a commitment we have made to the state of Florida for getting that $4.5 million. We're doing it very thoughtfully. We've put in parking, which serves not only tourists, but the local residents park there as well. There's a handicap space for the people that can't, maybe traverse down there. So that's good. When it comes to restrooms and so on, we have an obligation to do that. It was in the paperwork we submitted to the, I think it's Florida Forever or whatever the organization is. And we have to keep that commitment. We're doing it slowly, we're doing it thoughtfully, and one of the things we promised to do was restrooms, and we're going to do that. We want to keep the park as natural as possible, and we're doing so. So I think that's a really good move. Hammock Dunes Park across the street, it's totally undisturbed, completely and totally undisturbed. We have no immediate plans to change that. If something comes along in the future, we can consider that. The voters said in the last election, when we had the charter amendments on there, that the city cannot sell any property that is considered parkland without a referendum of the public. So I'm completely on board with that. Now let's talk about debt. Every city has some debt. We have debt for the campus, what I call it, of the police station and City Hall. We have debt for the park. We have some other debt. Recently, we refinanced this debt. It was my suggestion. Not only did we get the money, the bond issue to pay off the short-term obligations we're going to have of paying another $1.5 million early next year and another $1.5 million the year after. That's going to be spread out over some 20 years. That's a smart thing to do. We're a coastal city and we have to have a good, strong savings account. So in doing so, we also refinanced some of our other debt, which was at a higher rate. I am specifically the one that said, let's look into that. The comment had been made, well, I don't think we can do it. I think there's this, I think there's a prohibition of that. And I said, that's fine, but let's get the facts. Let's have our city attorney look into it and say, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do. And they found out we could do that. So we're saving a good amount of it. I think $300,000 or $400,000 over the course of those loans had we not done that. And that's money that's back in the pockets of the people, or projects that we could do that we would not have done. When it comes to the transparency of our books and so on, we have a certified public accounting group that looks at our books every single year. They provide comments if they see anything wrong, if there's anything that they notice that we should do, suggestions and so on. We get outstanding reports from that CPA firm. They usually, we submitted them to them, I think we do it in late this year, maybe in the next month or two, and the results come out in June. I told the city manager yesterday that's far too long. I want them in the first quarter, by the end of the first quarter of 2017, because we have to have the information to make any corrections and adjust our course and so on and so forth. So our debt, I think, is fine. We would prefer less debt, of course. However, when it comes to saddling future generations with park debt, what you're doing is you're not really saddling them with it. What you're doing is you're having those benefactors of that parkland and so on also help pay for it. It shouldn't be the obligation of the people that are alive today, let's say over the next 5, 10 years, whatever person's lifetime is to pay for all of that, and then have the people who are going to benefit from it in the next 10 to 20 years after that. It's something that people buy into. They have some skin in the game, let's say, and there is no problem with that. There's no problem whatsoever with future people helping to pay what we have gotten for them as a city to pay in the future for that. Regarding neighborhoods, that's probably one of the most important things I have to say, is there is nothing more important than our neighborhoods. There have been numerous things that have come up. Let's say where a street has dead-ended and there's a cross street, and then it starts up again. There have been some moves over the years to have those streets go continuously through it. And I have opposed those, and I have opposed them because it is not right. If people on the street ends have purchased that property with the expectation that it's going to stay that way, then it should stay that way. And I'm not going to pull the rug out from under these homeowners that have relied on their city to keep their promises, basically. So that has come up, I would say, 2 or 3 times, and I have opposed doing that 2 or 3 times. Regarding the Holiday Inn Express, we have a very nice hotelier that does a very good job, Elite Hospitality, who has just built the Courtyard Inn, wants to build a hotel, a Holiday Inn Express, on the vacant land to the south of the Courtyard Inn. That land that he has, most of it, 2/3 of it, is commercial. It is already zoned for a hotel. He can put a hotel there right now. I mean, he has to get our approval, but basically, he could do it. He came in and said, we'd like to build the hotel, but we'd like to make it bigger by using the 6 lots we have to the west, and we'd like for you to rezone those as commercial. The neighbors, we had a meeting, the neighbors said no. I talked to the neighbors before. They said, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Because when we bought our homes, we counted on you to keep that property as residential. We turned down the request to rezone that property, and so they are coming back to us with I think a 65-room property. That is how you stand up for neighborhoods, and that's what I do. Regarding crosswalks and safety, 2 things. I formed the Crosswalk Safety Committee. It was sort of, they say, self-formed, but it was my idea for a group of citizens to study the intersections and so on and come back with recommendations on some things we should do as a city to make our streets safer for pedestrians. They came back with the crosswalks, with the flag system. Totally support that. Have supported every request they've had for funding for that. I've encouraged them to do that. We just had a meeting the other day and they gave a report. They're continuing to look into that, and we thank them for doing that. Let's see. Another beach safety thing. For a number of years, I thought, you know, we're a residential and a tourist committee, or community. So when people go out on the beach, they're having fun, maybe it gets dark, then they're coming back, and I think, as tourists, which walkover did I come over? I don't know where I am. And as a hotel owner, I heard it time and time and time and time again. Why don't you guys mark the street end? So I approached Billy Zietz from Beach Services, and he said, you know, that's a good idea. However, it's not as simple as you think, because we have to do a 911 system, we have to coordinate it with rescue, and so on and so forth. Well, a project as a business person I thought would take 3 months, took about 2 years. And I'm not faulting anybody for that, but it's complex, more complex than I thought. And so the upshot of that was the red signs that you see on the beach that it says maybe S121 or 129. If people have an emergency, they call 911 and say, the red sign says I'm at S121. Rescue knows exactly where they are, exactly where they are. Before the system got put into place, I have to tell you a story. There was a father and son jet skiing right down near maybe Beecher's Lodge or somewhere in there, and they hit a sandbar, and the little boy hit the front of the jet ski and was severely injured. Nobody knew where they were. Not one person knew where they were. So it's a very important thing that got accomplished, and I hope that that's something that continues and helps people throughout the times to come. When it comes to the beach, that's our name, St. Augustine Beach. There's nothing more important than our beach. There's nothing more important than the beach renourishment. About a month and a half ago, I went to a meeting at the, I can't think of the name, Guatemala, Talamata, whatever it is. And the DEP was there, the U.S. government organization, it'll come to me, who coordinates the beach renourishment. And we had a meeting of about 2 to 3 hours, And so it was a very technical meeting. The Volano group was there. I was there with our city manager. And basically my role there that day was to say thank you as the Corps of Engineers. Thank you to the Corps of Engineers. Thank you to the DEP, and thank you to the county for their efforts to get beach renourishment at the beach. I mean, there's a 50-year agreement with the Corps of Engineers, I guess because of the channel cut in that was deemed to be responsible for the erosion, natural renourishment in St. Augustine Beach, and the erosion near the pier. So while it's an expectation as time rolls on, it's not always a given. It's a very expensive project, but it's a very beneficial project. You know, some people say, oh, it's just money thrown away. Just money thrown, you're just throwing money away. I can tell you as a resident, very fortunate to be a resident on the ocean since 2001. I have seen the dunes improve at the beach dramatically, dramatically. And I give my wife some of that credit. My wife, when we first moved there and got married, and her family is a long-term resident of the beach in St. Johns County. She really was after me to put in sand fencing on our properties. So we agreed, and with the neighbors, we put in almost 1,000 feet of sand fencing 5 different times at a cost of between $30,000 and $50,000 of our own money, If you look at the dunes now, when you would exit our walkover to the beach, you would have to go down 13 steps, and the beach was right there. Right now, you go down, you go to the end of the walkover, there's no steps. There's none. And the dunes go like this 5 times. Then, on the other side of the driving lane, a natural other dune formed. That is the dune that saved us in that storm. That is what saved us. Another thing saved us. And I have to give my wife credit again. Maybe she should run, I don't know. She has some good ideas. When we were walking our 3 dogs down the beach, she said, you know, look at these, how beautiful these dunes are. We're going towards A Street. Got this nice high 12, maybe 15-foot dune system. And then at A Street, it drops way down like this, drops over like that. Maybe it's 50, 60 feet wide, and then it goes back up. She said, you know, if we have a hurricane, that's a great vulnerability. This city is going to get flooded like you can't believe. So that planted a seed. So I met with the city manager, I met with Public Works, and kind of started working on some solutions, and multi-million-dollar budgets later, and lots of issues at the city commission. It kind of got delayed a little bit. But when I saw the storm coming, I thought, you know, taking no action is not an option for me. It is not an option. So I called Max at City Hall. We had a meeting with Joe Howell of Public Works, and we said, what can we do? And about 3 months before that, maybe 4, I'd gotten a call from the governor. And there was some weather event going on. I don't recall what. But he said to me, I just want to let you know, Mayor, that the resources of the state of Florida are at your disposal. If you need anything, I'm calling you from my cell phone, please call me. So I saved that number. In the back of my mind, I did wonder, was that really the governor? So I called the number right before the storm, and I left a message, and lo and behold, 30 minutes later, the governor called me back. I explained our situation with A Street. I said, we need some help here. So he said, I'll have my chief of staff call you. He called in 30 minutes. 30 minutes later, the DEP called me. We reviewed some options. He said one option of pushing the sand from the beach up into the opening. He said, you don't want to do that. So anyway, we discussed other options. Make a long story short, we got approval to put sand across that gap at A Street and fill it almost to the level of the surrounding dunes. And that, in my opinion, may have saved millions of dollars in damage. And I'm not saying that gloating. I'm thrilled that those people in those neighborhoods did not have to go through the same stuff that the people in Davis Shores are going through, at Matanzas, at Volano, and if it saved one person, it was worth all that effort. So I hope that that sort of sets a gold standard, if you will, at least a start of something. Did I want to do Ocean Trace Road? You bet I did. DEP said you can only use beach quality sand. That's puzzling to me. Right. We're in an emergency. We've got to take action. Okay. But we complied, and we didn't violate any rules or whatever. but I think a lot of people were really helped by that.
For the sake of time, do you mind if we move forward with
Oh,
some
sure,
questions?
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
Because I want to remind everyone, we do have a hard stop.
Okay,
2
sure.
o'clock, if you don't mind. Okay.
Yeah, please. I'd like to say something on some of the things you said, though. Could I do that? Just briefly, I'm fast.
Okay.
Okay, I'm real fast.
I'm going to govern the time, though, so
You
right
go
ahead.
right ahead. Govern it next time, too. Okay, I live on 8, I do appreciate what you've done, okay? The only thing is, you talked about the $9 million budget. Excuse me, that's after 25 to 30 years. And yes, that is putting a burden on our youngsters. Yes, it is, for future. And if there's a downturn in the economy, that's our taxes that's going to go. Like it or not, that's bottom line. Second, on the beach, the beach to nourish it. All right, South Florida's always done this. There's no big deal. We should have been prepared for it. Oh yes, they are prepared for it. And in the lowlands, I don't think you put dunes around or sand around lowlands. I don't think the way you want to do it. And as far as everything else, there's a big write-off. I think you have enough write-offs in your business too when you do this kind of stuff. And I understand that when you may not be able to talk about it, I'll do it really fast, okay? But you expelled water that actually took some dunes away around your hotel. That's what I understand. And there's film on it and pictures on it. Now, I know that Tom's under injunction, but there's a big possibility it was raw sewage. So you were able to do things that you tell other people they can't do. All right, and that's what I find a problem with our commissioners.
Okay, I think
All right, that's it.
I dispute that.
Yeah.
I do dispute that.
If we're gonna keep mentioning Tom Reynolds, I think we need to, for the sake of the recording, say what happened earlier this week. Are you comfortable with that?
To the extent that I can talk about that,
Okay.
because it is a pending legal situation.
I can talk about what was reported by the record
Yeah.
this week. if you're comfortable
Yeah,
with that.
I read it.
A citizen in St. Augustine Beach approached your property and made some accusations about some goings on there, and you took out an order of protection against them. Is that a fair
That's
way?
absolutely correct. He didn't make some statements. He stopped. He used vulgar profanity. He was amped up like a kind of a person that was out of control and not in charge of his actions whatsoever.
Okay.
He was swearing like a truck driver.
Okay, so this led to a temporary injunction for protection against stalking. The party in question is Tom Reynolds, who said he was voicing concern about water being pumped from a hotel and affecting the dunes and public access to the sidewalks.
Yes, sir.
In the story, it says that your take on events was it was coming from a neighboring property. Is that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And well, that's pretty much.
All right.
With
So-
the approval of the city of St. Augustine Beach, stormwater into the storm drain with prior approval, like in many several emergencies we've had, they have gotten approval.
Okay.
Yes.
Is
So
that
now
written
we all
in?
know what.
Okay, all
yeah,
right, let's let it go. All right, we'll let it go, but that, I'll just see written.
We don't need to let it go. I think we just needed to
Yeah.
have an understanding of what we
Tom
were
Reynolds.
referring to.
Yeah, I know, I read the article.
Okay. Billy, you talk about the lack of transparency. Can you give like an example,
one?
a strict example?
Yeah, to get anything out of the St. Augustine Beach, which is Max Royal, I have to know explicitly what I have to ask for. They hold things back, okay? I went, as a candidate, I wanted the backup material for the meetings, all right? And that's all I wanted, because I wanted to sit there and be out there. They go up there and they have all this and things in front of them. I'm sitting there, you know, duh. And I'm not going to run to the back of the room where they have just one copy of it. So I asked for it. They wanted to charge me $50. I said, no, I'm not going to pay $50. So I called the other day for the new one on this past one, the 17th or whatever, and they said I owed them $50. I'm not going to pay them $50. As a candidate, I should know exactly what they have in front of them so I can dispute it or at least challenge it or whatever. I want to know the information. Information is everything.
Is that online?
It is online. It's
No,
called the book.
No, I want it.
Yes,
I
it
want
is
in-
online.
I want it in printing, and that's exactly what I asked for, because I don't have time to sit online. I run a deli, I'm a self-employed, local business person, and I don't have time. So I have to do what I have to do
To
to
hit
accommodate me, yes,
I mean,
not
you
to
don't have
accommodate.
time to print it yourself, is what you're saying.
I do not have time. No, I do
She's
not.
treated just like everyone else. If anyone came in and wanted that, candidate or
I
not,
don't
they
wanna
would
pay
have to do the
$50
same
for it.
thing.
I do not.
We have a book provided. They can look through it. If they want
So
to
that means
purchase
I have
that,
to get up out
then
of my seat and walk to the back of the room and, oh, is that what they're, and then run back to my seat.
it's
and
on
sit
the
down.
computer. I mean,
I do
you're
not want to
treated
take.
just like everyone
I
else.
do not want I want it printed out. That's exactly what I wanted.
Then you have to
What's
write
a
a
big
check.
deal?
You have to write a
I'm
check
not gonna
like
write a check. I
everybody
pay
else.
taxes.
Okay.
No.
So
All right.
I'm gonna stop this because I
sorry.
don't think we're ever going to solve this. You
As
clearly
a
don't
kid.
want to pay for it, and it's
I'm
available
a candidate,
online.
right, I should have it.
Well, you're a citizen, and you're having the exact same treatment as anyone else.
No,
and I don't.
I'm a candidate. All the citizens aren't candidates.
Okay, but you're being treated the same way, right?
No, but not as, I want to be treated as a candidate.
Do other candidates have to pay the $50 if they wanted to transfer?
They would, except I am on the commission.
Mhm.
I've never asked for it because I get the book.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
I get the book.
Right,
But the
that's
book
what I
is
want.
available at the counter if she'd like to look through it.
I have to go in the back of the
Anyone
room.
else would have to just pay to have it printed. That's all.
I'm not going to go in the back of the room,
All right.
and I'm paying $50 for it.
Well, those are
I'm busy, I'm a busy one, yes.
okay. I have a
Pay
question.
taxes.
I'm not sure. All right, question about the bathrooms. Real quickly. You mentioned, Ms. Bailey, that the bathrooms were for the tourists. Where are the bathrooms planned to be, please?
The bathrooms aren't there yet.
Right, where are they planned to go?
They're going to be in Ocean Hammock Park.
Okay.
We don't know the exact location. That's going to be studied by the Public Works Director. Probably somewhere near the parking area.
Okay.
And I have to say, and I don't have facts, I don't think she does either, but we can guess, that they're going to be used by a number of residents as well, because the location between bathrooms is quite a distance. If you're, the closest one is 8th Street.
All right.
So if you're walking down and you need to go to the bathroom, well, it's going to be right there.
Okay, that answers my question, because I think in your introduction you said the bathrooms were for tourists, nothing for locals.
Pretty much, yeah. Do you think I'm going to walk from A Street all the way up to there to go to the bathroom?
It just depends on where I am.
Well,
I mean,
if I'm on the A Street beach, there's no bathroom right there. So, I mean, I just think it's $100,000 that's wasted, in my opinion.
okay.
It's a project, but in my opinion.
And then one more thing, and then I'll pass it to someone else. You had said that beach re-nourishment was everything, and you said it was no big deal. I don't think I've ever heard quite such a
Oh,
polar
I didn't mean
opposite.
it that way. Let me explain myself. When he's talking about these other properties, I think Davis Shores is really below the sea level. And I don't know whether unless they want to put a wall around it, maybe seawalls around Davis Shores. That would stop it. That's what I meant. Now, we're not prepared. South Florida's always prepared for Florida hurricanes. And look, it's like a big shock up here. Oh, it just happened. No, this has been going on. And really, the sand was great because I'm on A Street. But I did question where the sand came from.
And I will say that it was never my idea to put sand everywhere. 8th Street, Ocean Trace, and maybe a more permanent solution at Polk Road because it's so wide. Maybe some seawall there, some kind of protection because it's so wide and so much water came in there. So we just need to look into those things.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Ms. Bailey, you mentioned that you wanted the power of decision to be returned to the planning and zoning.
Yes.
But you also mentioned building heights, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that the planning and zoning board was the authority that approved the 53-foot hotel and tall hotel, or something that you're also concerned about. So could you talk about that?
Well, it went back and forth for so doggone long, they couldn't make a decision, and it went back and forth and back and forth. Who made the final, if it was P&Z, I don't know that for a fact, okay? But all I know is that they keep on vacillating on their decisions. No decisions are made locally. It either comes from the League of Cities, or else it comes from the North Regional Council, and that's where they get their information from, where they're told what to do. Our commissioners do not make their own decisions. They're told
Mr.
what
Brown,
to.
can you
Yeah,
clarify
I'd like to
the planning and
respond.
zoning who?
Planning and zoning for Salt Life had the final decision.
Okay.
They had the final decision. After they allowed it to be built, which is a great place, with fewer parking places than they needed, I made the suggestion to the commission, don't you think that we should have maybe oversight over some of these decisions of such great impact? The other commissioner said, I think we're good. I think we're good. So then the hotel came up, and it was still in the hands of planning and zoning exclusively, because there was no variance according to the building official needed and so on. So that decision was exclusively in the hands of planning and zoning. I again, after that decision, reminded the commission, look what happened again. We need some oversight. It's not that they're unqualified people. It's not that this, this person, that person is telling us what to do. It's that certain decisions of consequence need to be affirmed by the commission. Now those projects are affirmed by the city commission. It happens. Even if the hotel gets built on property without expanding to the residential lots, the Holiday Inn Express, that will come to the commission. And we are elected, we should have the final say.
I don't agree.
Okay.
I don't agree.
I'm sorry, what don't you agree with?
The P&Z, I think, should have the final. I really do.
Even though it
And
was the P&Z that made the decision?
he says that, no, they didn't.
No, he's saying they did.
No, I said they did.
The P&Z did?
Yeah, not the commission.
Okay,
It
then
never
you-
came to the
Then
commission.
you took that authority from them, correct?
Yes.
Yes. okay.
After they approved a 53 foot.
Yeah.
53 foot.
On account of where the sea level is, I know all about it.
Okay.
It's gonna be-
It seemed like those two positions conflicted kind of greatly with one another, and I just wanted to see if you had any clarification for that.
I myself would lean more towards the P&Z,
Okay.
because I think the commission is a little self-serving. What benefits them more than anything.
So I just want to make sure I understand then, you would have supported the PNC, their decision
would've-
to
what
have
I
the
would've done
hotel
personally-
being 55 feet
Yes, what I
tall.
do personally, okay, I like to look at all the area angles, okay? Everyone has a reason, and there's a heads and a tails, okay? And listen to both of them. And I think maybe it should have gone finally to the commission, but the P&Z should have the biggest force for it, because they're pretty knowledgeable, in my opinion.
One of the options planning and zoning could have had was to delay a decision to get more information, maybe from an outside source, a ocean person, a DEP person, another attorney. They did not do that, and they just approved it.
They didn't do that either for the signage, we wanted them to a First Amendment attorney, and they didn't do that either. They went by some defense attorney from Jacksonville Beach. And that's what I wanted. I wanted a first, I think we should look at more, they don't look at both sides, they just look at one side. Okay, we got this attorney, she knows everything, so they just make that decision that way. And that's on the signage thing, which is against my political freedom of speech.
Did you want to talk about signs now? I mean, I'd like to respond. How the sign ordinance came up was Alvin's Island owner came in for a permit. Gary granted the permit, our building official. They didn't say they wanted to put up a elect Trump sign. We don't really care. But anyway, they put that up. Then they filed a lawsuit in federal court stating that they had to get a permit to put up a political sign. There was a new Supreme Court ruling. We were not in compliance after that was reviewed. So the League of Cities, because we were sued, hires the attorney on behalf of the city. This attorney, who specializes in the sign ordinance, which would comply with the Supreme Court ruling, developed the sign ordinance. We tweaked it a little bit. She was coming up to a court date the day after this meeting, the final meeting. She'd been there several times. She said, I'm going to court tomorrow. I have to update the judge. She said, I am suggesting to you to pass this signed ordinance. If you want to tweak it afterwards a little bit, fine. But I want to go to court tomorrow and say, see, Judge, they did it. They did it. They comply now. When it comes to freedom of speech and people, individuals not being able to jab signs in the ground on city property, that special attorney was asked that question at least 5 times. What do you think about that? Couldn't we have a prohibition or allowing them signs for elections? She said, don't go there. Don't do that. People can carry their signs, elect whoever they want. They can carry them all day long. They just can't put them in the ground. Don't go there on city property. The reason is, if you allow a candidate to put their sign there or whatever, if some other organizations come in that maybe have an offensive message and you've allowed the candidates to do it, you have to allow them to do it. The matter came up after she said that 2 or 3 times and she already went to the judge. Let's rescind that. Let's go backwards. We contacted her again. She said, don't go there. Do not go there. We listen. We listen. Our job is to keep the city out of court, and our job is to keep the checkbook in place so it's not drained down to nothing by making stupid decisions.
Like the 9,000 million. Well, wait a second now. Here's a picture, okay? And what it is, it's a picture of all the political signs that were there, okay? That didn't stop them. And it says, let's see what it says. No political signs on property. And lo and behold, they took out that sign and they put down no signs on property. That city property belongs to we the people. It doesn't belong to those commissioners up there or that defense attorney up in St. Augustine Beach. And we're the only ones in the whole United States that's doing this. And everybody else is out of compliance with the United States Supreme Court.
That's true. They are. She said at the meeting,
well,
I think
gee, then that means every city in the United States of America be
she
sued.
said we were one of the first people to change it to comply.
Well, in the meantime, you did it wrong because you lied about it. They put political signs first because they didn't want my political signs there. That's our property. That's a we the people property, like it or not. And then they turned around and put no political sign, no signs at all. So she didn't know what she was doing, or someone in the commission didn't know what they were doing. They just wanted to hurry up and do it.
The city manager does that. He made an error and he corrected the sign. Simple as that.
No, it's an error. That's a big error. It says, because you didn't want political signs there, because you want to win again. And you can win if you want. They can do what they want to do. But you were stopping me from my political freedom of speech, and that's exactly what you were doing.
Was his political sign there?
Pardon me?
Was his political sign there?
No, I'm talking about the sign from the St. Augustine Beach.
They said they wouldn't
I'm
let you
talking
put your
about their
sign
sign
back.
that they put there, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But the signs were being removed, were they not?
The next day.
We actually had pictures in the paper of the city manager removing signs from city
Oh, yeah.
property.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. My point, you're missing my point. My point is they changed the sign, what they say on their sign. No political signs, too. No signs.
Was that part of the...
And we're the only ones that did it. Go up to St. Oh, I'm sorry. I do apologize. That's my problem. I do interrupt sometimes.
Was that part of becoming compliant to change the sign? To say all
yeah,
signs?
he probably just got the wording wrong. You know, there was no signs, period. It's not political signs. No signs. He put up that sign that said no political signs. That was the city manager.
Well, if we are being...
it's not the commission. He basically operates.
If this attorney is so great up there in St. Augustine, up in Jacksonville Beach, why didn't you tell him that? Because you know what? They didn't want political signs. That's the bottom line right there.
I don't agree.
Well, that's what happened. That's exactly what happened.
Okay. So let's move to a different topic, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Craig, did you have anything?
Yeah, you both mentioned, Rich, you mentioned protecting neighborhoods, and Rose, you mentioned controlling and responsible growth. Can each of you maybe expand on, is it possible to manage responsible growth from the commission, and what are your visions for it specifically, Rose?
I don't want a Daytona. I don't want a Daytona. And for one thing, I would have
So you're
asked...
speaking specifically to hotels, or?
Yes, to hotels. Yeah, exactly. It's a little island. It seems like nothing is for the residents. Everything is for tourism. And nothing wrong with tourism. It brings money there. But I think there's a point like too much is too much. And I think it's overgrowth. And I've seen it overgrown in different places. And down in Daytona right now, when you go down, there's a shopping centers that it look like they're, everything's like for lease, and because they're building new ones. And what I would have done, I would have asked building a hotel to have all retail or restaurants in the bottom, and then the condominiums or whatever up top, or the hotel rooms. I would have expanded that way rather than have just hotels. I mean, it's boring if you ask me. And not to take away from the small business owner there, but that's what I would have done. And another thing, when they're building them, what I would like to find out, are we hiring American builders there? Are we hiring local workers there? Or are we hiring foreign workers there? There's a lot of things that we don't, to talk about transparency, I don't know about. And the only way I'd know about it if I sat in the board and I'd ask these questions to people. The only way you know is to ask questions. And a lot of this information isn't given out.
We'll give you a chance to speak
Sure.
to that. I have a question.
You know, Rose has talked about the Constitution and so on. When it comes to developing property, let's talk about the Holiday Inn Express property. They have property rights. They own that property. They probably purchased it as a commercial piece of property, and they had a certain expectation they could develop that property in a certain fashion. If we take that right away from them, we have to write them a check under the Byrd-Harris Act that we have taken away from their property rights, and they can't do what they should have been able to do in the first place. So we have to very closely safeguard property rights. When it comes to the zoning along the boulevard and so on and so forth, there are certain parcels that are zoned that are green space, the parkettes and so on, some commercial. Well, if you have a commercial zone piece of property, you can put commercial on there, and basically the city commission has nothing to do with that. You have to comply with the land development regulations, which I know backwards and forwards. I'm helping to redevelop those regulations right now. To the extent that you want to put shops, go to the developer and say, I want you to put shops downtown and put a hotel over it. That's you know, it's an idea you could float to them, but it's their property. A hotel does not have to have shops. We have to realize that people have property rights. If they want a variance of some kind, you could say, okay, if you, in exchange for this variance, maybe you do this or you do that because we think it'd be beneficial to the community. But you can't tell a property owner specifically, if they're complying with the land development regulations, what to do with their property. And when it comes to workers, the city really has no right to go in and say, let me see all these workers' documents. That's ICE or whoever the governing agency is. We control the building of the property, make sure it's built correctly and so on. That's and under their land development regulations, that's where it stops for us. If there's some kind of violation, we think about it, we know about it, we could report it, but to enforce it, that's not our job.
I'm not saying it's all recommendations, that's all I'm saying, and I think we should recommend, hey, we'd really appreciate it if you'd hire our people, workers on from the beach here. Let's keep it all, why not have our workers here? Why not talk to them about it? Maybe they would accommodate us that way. That's what I would do at any rate.
Well, thank you both. I think we have time for just one more as we close out. Do you want to
Yeah.
say something, Jim?
No, just what you normally do is if there's a question we did not ask you, or if you want to just make a short closing statement. But if there's something that something that you don't think we hit correctly or hard enough, or just wind it up.
You can go first because you'll be shorter.
I'm kind of concise when I talk. I'm running for this office because I would like to continue doing what I've started doing. I have a great deal of knowledge that I've accumulated from Planning and Zoning, Tourist Development Council, Convention and Visitors Bureau, and the City Commission. I take it very seriously. I study very hard. I analyze things. I plan. I dream for the city, try to comply with all the regulations. If I see something that doesn't make sense, that it's a burden to our residents or our businesses, I try to streamline that for them. But when it comes to the most important thing in our city, it is the balance between residential and commercial. It is an absolute balance, and it's hard to do. It's hard to do. But if we have to side on any one group, there are people that call this home, and we have to really advocate for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to finish up with what I stand for again. It's limited government. Local decision making, property rights, representative democracy, and fiscal responsibility. The $9 million loans just blows my mind. I also want to give back to the community. And what I want most of all is transparency and truthfulness. And not consensus. You know, consensus is not a decision. Uphold the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and I want term limits. Building heights, yeah, I think we should watch about those. Recreation for our children to make our beach a family-friendly community. Make the mayor's position a position to vote by the residents, not for the commissioners to say, oh, it's your turn now. Okay, let's play music. I think our mayor sitting right here this is a second time as mayor. They just keep on going on and on. Keep our beach town a beach town, not a Daytona. God bless America, as we are the last and only free nation in the world. And that's me. Sorry, people.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all.